is up? How y'all doing? It's good to be in the house today. We are jumping back. We have Fall Fest last week, y'all. Fall Fest was last week. We dunked about 45 people, and that means baptized to the religious folks in the room. And we had 1,008 people here last week on campus. So, man, God is showing up. People are showing up. But we are going to jump back into our Scenes series now. Back into Scenes. We get to see Mario hang another art gallery. And that is just always good, beautiful vibes. And nobody else? Okay. And why are we calling this series Scenes when in the book is called Scene? Because we have everything like fire pit moments. We have sporting events. We have living room conversations, and we have coffee shop meetings. We have all types of scenes in life, don't we? But we are believing that who these scenes will be filled with or whether they're empty will be so often determined by how well you show up and see the people in your life. See, the scene could look the same, but who's in it and who's a part of it will be determined by how well you show up for these people and actually see them. And take the time to do relationship with them. And remember, we moved from the series, The Most Dysfunctional Family Ever, straight into this series. And that was very intentional. In fact, we opened the bag on hurts and bitterness and relationships during The Most Dysfunctional Family Ever when we recognized some of our families aren't as bad off as we thought as we looked at the Genesis family. But if we just open the bag, right, of hurts and bitterness and the pain, and we just lay the altar and we leave it there, really we've only done like 50% of the work. There's more work to be done. And the testimonies we got from that series were incredible. I mean, we got stories of sisters reunited. In fact, I had somebody come up and tell me, I haven't talked to my sister since COVID. And we reached out and we had our very first conversation. It was powerful. I had another person reach out and just say, I realized after years and years of holding bitterness with my father, it was time to finally release the stone of bitterness and reach out and see what it would look like to reconnect some. And these are powerful testimonies over long spans of time. But it still begs the question, just because you're going to repair one relationship, how do we actually do healthy relationship moving forward so we don't get into the spaces as much of that level of dysfunction? And so this series is all about practical tools to walk out relationships well. That's what this series is about. And relationships are the center of much of Scripture. In fact, this word righteousness shows up a bunch, and it's very often misinterpreted. Righteousness is the Hebrew word tzedakah, and it means to do right by others within a relational context. To do right by others within a relational context. In fact, you could say that righteousness equals right relationships. Okay, now there's 4 different relationships you're going to look at: relationships with God, relationships with self, relationships with others, and then relationships with the world. But ultimately, it's right relationships with those different entities. And so the question is, how do we do right relationships? Well, Pastor Daniela, Will Hutcherson, 2 weeks ago, laid some great groundwork into this series, and we're going to continue for a few more weeks discussing and laying out how to connect with people in our lives in hopes that we show up and are able to do right relationships with one another and show each other the love of Jesus. And when Jesus talked about love, he never just talked, or he didn't just picture or talk about grand gestures. I believe he pictured people who showed up for one another. It's exactly what he modeled. Jesus modeled what it looked like to show up for someone when he showed up for the woman at the well, when he showed up for blind Bartimaeus, when no one else was listening or paying attention to what he was crying out, have mercy on me, right? And he showed up for Mary and Martha when their brother died, and he showed up and mourned with them before he healed Lazarus. In other words, scene after scene, moment after moment, Jesus was there. Jesus showed up and engaged in relationships with people. And so if we're followers of Jesus, then we're going to take our cues from his lived life, and we're going to learn what it looks like to show up for others too. So how do we do it, and how do we do it well? The rest of the series, we're going to cover this. We're going to cover 5 connection tools for relationships. 5 connection tools for relationships. The first one is show up. The second one is see them. No, the third one is just listen. Nobody's ready to scream more cowbell yet? We'll get there. The fourth one is speak life. And number 5 is build grit. Some of these used to be more natural, by the way, as you look at them. Some of our OG people in the building are like, this is how else could you do it? They used to be more natural because our world was more set up for it. But the more we get into technology and advancement in technology, the world is not as much set up for natural connection as we used to be. So we have to be a bit more intentional with it. It's not gone. It's not erased. It's not still needed. Again, Will helped us with the science behind how much we actually need connection, right? And so we just have to learn to be more intentional with how we do it. And all the other connection tools hinge on the very first one, and that's the one we're going to cover today. It's on the first simple principle, show up, right? They all hinge on that, and that's pretty obvious, right? Because the other one's like, see them. Well, if you're not in the room with them, you can't see them. Just listen. Just listen to me. Again, if you're not there, if you didn't show up, you can't listen. You can't speak life, and you can't obviously build grit if you didn't first show up. Show up. And so, listen, I want to say 2 things before we dive into just showing up. Number 1, I want to encourage parents. I want to encourage spouses. I want to encourage even best friends in the room. And especially, I just want to encourage parents because I know so often we just feel like we're not doing a good job. I know that feeling. It just always feels like I'm just missing the mark. I'm not a good parent. I can't tell you how many times my wife is just be like the best mom all week, and then we'll get in bed. She's like, I'm just the worst, and she's crying. I'm like, why? What do you mean? What happened? I'm the worst mom. I'm like, what? Didn't see that at all this week. I saw the opposite, and get to encourage each other in that. But I just want to encourage you as a parent, especially if you're just showing up. If you're just showing up, you're winning 50% of the battle just by being in the room. Just show up. Just be there. And the second thing I want to tell you as we go through these 5 ways to show up for people you care about is you can't do it for everyone, actually. You can't do it for everyone. That's a really hard truth, especially for people, even people like me. I'm an extrovert. I really want to show up for everybody. I want to love everybody. I want everybody to love me. I love that exchange. But the reality, as you grow and as you age and as you start to take on responsibility in this life, you got to realize I can't do this for everyone. And so I really want to encourage you, before we even go into this, you have to pick the select people. Who can you do this for? And that might be one of the first questions you ask yourself as you go through this. Who can I do this for? Who do I have the capacity to do this for? And how do I do it for them with intention? And it doesn't mean you can't do it for anyone outside of that bubble. It just means that has to be your first intention. Those are your first choice. Those are your first people. And then if you have margin and extra for others, then you do that. So the questions are going to be framed. How do you show up for someone you care about? Number 1, you show up before they ask you to. Show up before they ask you to. Our society is full of hiding from others and hiding from connection. Our society is full of it. Instead of asking someone for advice, again, if you had to fix something in your house 15 to 20 years ago, and I use that specifically because it was 2007 when the iPhone came out and before it blew up that we all had technology in our hand. And so I grew up in a little bit of that age. 2005, I was 15 years old, and if I had to have a question about how to do something around the house, I had to actually go find somebody who knew how to do it and actually ask them their advice and learn from a human being. I couldn't just YouTube it. Now we just Google or YouTube it. Instead of talking with someone or risking that ask in person, will you go out for coffee with me? We just hit them up in the DMs now, right? Like that's the rule. And then instead of showing up and picking up my food, I Grubhub or DoorDash. And just think about that for a second, because we all admit, like, Grubhub and DoorDash food is worse food. Okay, it is soggier, it is worse, it is off. We are literally content with soggier, worse food because we don't want to deal with people or drive to the restaurant even now. Like that's our world. We even give drop-off instructions like ring the doorbell and knock twice, right? Because we don't even want to deal with the person who's dropping the food off. We're like, I'm in my slips and my pajama pants, and I look bad, and I didn't even do anything to look good today, and I'm not about to let you see me in this state. So just ring the doorbell, knock twice, and get off of my porch. We think we prefer YouTube and Netflix over personal connection. We prefer hiding behind our phones versus legitimate interaction with people. And here's one of the stingers. Most relationships aren't going to come out and ask you to show up for them. And what that means is by the time that relationship is kind of lost, you won't even recognize it because no one's going to look at each other and go, I really just need you to show up for me. And so it's going to take some intentionality on your part, some things that you can routinely do to invite them into relationship with you while you're in each other's presence to continue to strengthen that relationship. The first one in that is ask real questions. Learn to start to ask real questions. What do I mean by real questions? Not just like surface, hey, how are you? How are you doing? Find some real questions. I'll talk a bit about this in the next one too, but if you want, Vanessa Van Edwards, she's written 2 books, Cues and Captivate. She's really good at asking intentional questions that will help strengthen your relationship based on the level you want that relationship to go. I'd really encourage that. Again, that's Vanessa Van Edwards, Cues and Captivate. Or how about this? Learn to call and FaceTime your friends instead of just text them. In fact, I went through a 5-month run where I shut off text messaging on my phone. And it actually forced me to have to call people just for like a 1-minute text answer. Now, sometimes that was an inconvenience, but what I also learned very quickly was some of the connections I made just by having to make the phone call, and it didn't take an hour. It was just like, wow, then we ended up having a 10-minute conversation instead of what would have been a 30-second thing, and I found out things that were going on in their life that I wouldn't have found out otherwise, sometimes exciting, sometimes sad, sometimes ways that I could be there for them. And so I'm not saying you got to try no texting, but what does it look like to call and FaceTime your friends at times instead of just have a texting relationship? Number 3, really obvious, but again, things we've kind of stopped doing in our world today. Invite friends out. Just invite someone out to coffee or dinner. I didn't tell her I'm saying this, but my wife is like afraid of relationships at times. She's more introverted. I'm more extroverted. And so often I'm like, just invite him for a coffee. It's like, just go out for a dang coffee. It's not going to kill you. If you don't like it, make an excuse up and leave 30 minutes in. I do it all the time. I'm an extrovert. Happens, okay? It's a bad date. I don't know. Bonus points, by the way, if you go out with somebody that you already have good, solid relationship and you make a no phone policy. Try that out. We need connection, but often it feels riskier, so we avoid it. The truth is there's nothing riskier to our mental and emotional health than skipping authentic connection with other humans. Start showing up and connecting. Number 2, show up for what matters to them. Show up in their highlights and show up in their lowlights. In fact, here's 2 great questions you can ask to your friends, to every relationship in your life. What was the best thing that happened in your week? What was the worst thing that happened in your week? In fact, Sierra and I, with our kids, when they come home from school, we never ask, how was your day good? Was it bad? How was your day? Boring. We ask, what was the best thing that happened at school today? And then we will ask, what was the worst thing that happened at school today? The best thing is normally lunch or gym. The worst thing is typically math, something like that. It just is what it is. My daughter even yesterday says, math, I thought you're so good at math though. Yeah, I'm good at it, Dad, but I hate it. So sorry, you're blessed to be a genius. I apologize for it. But then when they invite you into those spaces, I want to encourage you, sit and listen. Sit and listen. We'll get to that in the following weeks, but sit and listen. Ask more questions about what they're saying. Come curious after they've given you the first answer. Do your best not to offer just a bunch of advice unless they ask for it. Just sit with them in those spaces and listen. And by the way, if you're only ever inviting people to your thing and your low light and your highlight and you're just you get the point. Like, if you're only the person doing it all the time and you're just talking, let me just help you. And I don't mean to be, overly rude, but you're a bad friend. You're a bad friend. And that's okay, but start to recognize right now, like, if you're doing 80% of the talking, you need to slow yourself down. You need to start to learn how to ask some questions and then sit and listen and be curious enough about their life. Start putting them first sometimes and let them talk. Also, what are the moments that matter to them that you can show up for? Not just listening, not just talking and asking questions, but what are the moments in your life that matter to them? Joel and Rebecca are a great example of this. Joel and Rebecca Berthet, Joel's on staff, obviously he's just up here. Joel and Rebecca have like 1 billion kids, okay? I can't keep up. They're my nephews. After like the third or fourth one, I just like, how many names do you expect me to know? Do I have to know middle names? Like, where does this go? They only have 4, but we only have 2. It just seems like 1 billion, okay? It's like 1 billion kids, and they all play 1 million sports each. And so when sports season comes, like we have our kids in sports and stuff too, and they're playing baseball. Man, I'll tell you what, the Berthets show up for our sports kids games at least once per season. And every time I'm flabbergasted. I don't know. You have 1 billion kids with 1 million sports. I don't know how you're making it to our thing. But honestly, you don't realize until you start to reflect, that means actually so much to us. Not that they're beholden to have to show up, but it means so much because they had so many other things going on, and they're clearly saying, hey, one time for each kid per season, we're going to find a way to get our family, and you'll see, and they've got 60,000 chairs over the top, and they're cooler, and their kids are running rogue, and Carter and Eli are trying to already kill each other, and they're like, we just showed up, and they come walking out like, we're here for life. And man, what they're doing, they're showing up for something that matters to us. It doesn't matter to them in the grand scheme of life, right? Their kids matter. But I'm sure it matters to them. But for someone, it doesn't hold the weight of the world for them. It holds the weight of the world for us to be at our kids' events, but it doesn't hold the weight of the world. They're just showing up for something that matters deeply to us and to our kids. And these are the moments that true friendships begin to come alive, when you start showing up for something that matters to them. When was the last time you showed up for something that really didn't hold the weight of the world for you, but it meant something to someone else? Now, how do you show up for someone you care about? You also show up when it is inconvenient. You show up when it is inconvenient. We love to drift from hard conversations and tough moments, but the people that matter most to you in your life are the people that had your back in the hardest times. Isn't that true? When people really showed up, when it was really difficult, when it was really terrible, whether it was the time you were mourning, maybe you were mourning a family death that meant something really deeply to you. Maybe it was a moment you failed in. Maybe it was a moment you felt the most shame or embarrassment you felt, and that one friend, like not many others showed up, but that one, or maybe those two really showed up and showed out and showed who they were. Maybe it was a deeply lonely season, and they just didn't let you drift into an abyss, but they kept showing up night after night, day after day. They kept checking in on you. Because when people show up for us in those spaces and places, we know they care for us beyond empty words. When they showed up when it was inconvenient. In fact, I've traveled and done a ton of school assemblies and always said this to students, and I think it rings so true for us, especially as we age into adults as well, is that friendship isn't friendship until it costs you something. Friendship isn't friendship until it costs you something. And you'll know your deepest of friends when they're willing to pay some of the highest of prices. If the relationships, by the way, lately in your life aren't costing you something, and I mean even lately, I want to assure you that you are actually ripping them of their value. You're stripping them of their value. You're taking value away. If your marriage has stopped costing you something, if your parenting has stopped costing you something, if some of the relationships within your best friends have stopped costing you something, you're actually stealing its value from it. You want to go back in and find something that you can sacrifice, find some time, find some money, find some energy, because you're actually inputting value back into the relationship. In fact, my friend was at a deadline recently with something at his house, and he called me. And he was like, I need help tonight. And I'm like, tonight? Tonight. Bro, you know how I operate. I'm like, month out. Tonight, bro, I'm dying. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. I'm going to be there. He's like, okay. And I'm like, how long? He's like, I don't know. It could be till midnight. Till midnight? Till midnight. You're going to kill me. I know, till midnight. Okay, bro, I'll be there. It's like I'll be there at like 5 or 6 p.m. And I'm not going to lie to you. I called Sierra right after. I was like, this dude wants me there tonight. She was like, tonight? I'm like, tonight. Well, how long are you going to be there? Till midnight. Till midnight? I was like, this is killing me. But I showed up, and we did a lot of work. We did heavy lifting, and I helped him cross that finish line for that house project he had. I showed up with energy, and by the way, he never would have known until I was preaching on this. Now he's going to find out, sorry, dude, that I whined about it. But he wouldn't have known, and that's what I mean. When are you showing up for people when it's inconvenient? There's got to be, again, listen to me. I said this at the top. You can't do it for everyone. You can't do it for everyone. But who's the group of five? Who's the friend? Who's the 5 friends that you have, or the 3 friends that you have? Who's the, obviously, as you're parenting, you're showing up for your kids when it's inconvenient. And who's this? When was the last time you showed up when it was inconvenient for your spouse, and showed up for them and didn't whine about it, but showed up with energy, and show up especially when it's inconvenient and difficult, because it's in these moments that you actually increase the value of your relationships, and I believe you won't regret it in the long term. Number 4, show up. Undistracted. I didn't say the undistracted part. Cowbell. Keep everybody awake today. Show up undistracted. Somebody snorted. Wow. If you're in the back and you don't know what happened, someone just live snorted right here, like loudly. I love it. Okay, we got a second. Now we're off to the races. Show up undistracted. What is valuable to you is what you give your time and energy to. Have you ever had someone who talks during your favorite TV show? Or you went to watch a movie, even in the theaters? Oh my goodness, I'm not even gonna lie to you. My wife's family is like the worst. They just want to talk during the movie. It's the first time, I know it's the first time you watch this movie too. What do you think's going to happen? I don't know. I didn't write the movie. I'm waiting to find out, just like you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What? I think I know him. You think, from what? From another movie. From another movie. I think he's from another movie. Yeah, they're called actors. They do that. Well, we got to find out. And then I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm like, well, let's talk about it after. They're actors. We could go on to IMDb after this and find out everything they ever did in their whole life. Right now, we're in the middle of a movie. Like, you're taking me out, the story writing. Like, it's so annoying, right? It's so annoying. I love you, Shaw family, but it's so annoying. Because you value that show, you value that movie, and that person's screwing it up. In fact, in some little way, they're kind of showing it seems like they're not putting as much value on the thing that you're there to do as you are, right? Now imagine not doing that. Imagine doing that not just to a movie, but imagine doing that to a person. Imagine using one of the questions I just phrased. Imagine saying, hey man, coming up with, hey man, what was the greatest thing that happened to you in your life this week? And they're like, oh yeah, let me tell you about it. Cool. Yeah, no, keep going. I'm listening. What was the great thing? Cool, yeah, tell me more. I'm listening. What I gotta do, let me check Facebook real quick, because I don't really care. Yeah, oh dude, that's really cool, bro. That's so nice, so good. Imagine doing that to somebody. And then, now just think that was the good thing. Now imagine doing that to someone when they're trying to tell you the terrible thing that happened to them that week. And then try to convince them afterward that you super care about them. Because everything you just showed, we're annoyed when someone does that to us in a movie. What about when it comes to someone's life? And they're trying to tell you the thing they truly care about, or the thing that really hurt them this week, or the thing that was really great this week, and you're just looking down. Imagine interrupting someone with your phone as they're trying to talk about what's going on with their life, or giving your attention to everyone else in your phone rather than the 1 or 2 people that are actually in front of you. Right. I'm gonna hit us with this. The 2 greatest distractions from our relationships often come down to these 2 components. They are addiction and worry. Addiction and worry will more quickly sever a relationship than just about anything else. And I'm going to help you with the phone thing. If you can't put your phone down when you're in front of a close friend, a spouse, or your kids, actually, if you can't turn your phone off for probably 2 to 3 hour chunks of time daily, then I'm going to help you with this. You're addicted. We are addicted, right? Here's what I'm going to encourage you. Own it and work on it. Own it and work on it. Now, there are other addictions we could talk about. I'm just harping on phones today because I believe it's become the most permissible and allowable addiction I think maybe our world's ever seen. But make no mistake that if you're missing your kid's life, your spouse's life, your best friend's life, because your face is glued to your phone. And let me just help you with this too. You're going to remember very little what you saw on that screen because that screen is also helping program you to forget everything within 9 seconds of time anyway. So you're going to lose your spouse's life, your marriage, your kid's life, your best friend's life. For what? For things that you've long forgot about. I want to encourage you to start to lay that phone down. Start to have self-control with your cell phone. Start to learn when to put it away. Start to give it its bedtime. Start to give it a time to put it down, to turn it off, when you can turn it on. Leave it outside of the room. I mean, there's all types of things. We can talk about phones another day. But that is one thing that will absolutely distract you from your relationships. The second thing is worry. You ever been in the same room with people and they're talking and you're not on your phone, but you're just so pent up and thought about what's going to happen next week or next month or 6 months from now that you can't even focus on the relationship right in front of you? Jesus said, cast your cares upon him. And I just want to encourage you to start to cast your cares upon him. In fact, in that moment, here's an exercise that I've started to do. It comes from John Eldridge. It says, I give everything to you, God. I give everything and everyone to you. Help me be right here with this person and enjoy this night. And then you actually try to release it and let it go and move on and walk into a relationship. Because here's the real truth. You have the power to give value to someone else. You have the power to give value to someone else. Just based on putting your addictions to the side and laying your worries at the feet of Jesus. So look up and actually tune in. Just learn more and more how to show up undistracted. And then number 5, the last way that we show up for someone is show up often. I told you. What I love that just happened is that you expected something there. Why did you expect something there? Because it happened consistently. You're telling me that something very insignificant showed up so consistently that the moment it wasn't there, you noticed its impact. You guys just think I'm silly. We often buy into who shows up most because they've proven they value us most. We value small, consistent commitment over unreliable big gifts. It's why we have anger issues with the mom or dad who never showed up consistently, but they would give us big gifts at Christmas time and birthdays, and they'd promise us big vacations. But we mourn over mom and dad or grandma and grandpa who actually showed up routinely to take us fishing or teach us how to bake a pie, even if they had little else to give. We mourn those people because they gave us their consistent time and energy, and with that, they gave us their life. The gift of a lavish vacation is much more expensive, but showing up consistently is of priceless value. Jesus said it this way: there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. I think we typically read that always as dying for someone, because Jesus did die for us and it's powerful. But what if Jesus meant it also within the realm of their lived life? I'd say it this way: it takes a moment of courage to die for someone, but it takes a lifetime of sacrifice to live for someone. By the way, the greatest power behind Jesus is he did both for us. He gave us his lived life and he died for us. Today, I want to help you and I want to encourage you. In most of our relationships, the hard question is not, are you willing to die for me? It's not the question they're asking. Are you willing to die for your children, your parents, your friendships, or your co-workers? In all honesty, they're very rarely asking that question. I love my kids. I am willing to die for them. I would do anything for them. But the question they're most often asking, I think every child's first question to their parents is not, will you die for me? It's, will you live for me? Richard Moss even said it this way. He said, the greatest gift you can give another is the purity of your attention. Just showing up in their lives each and every day in the small ways and the big ways. And I want to encourage you to show up often. I want to encourage you, parents, if you're showing up often, I'm telling you, you're winning most of the battle. Spouses, if you're showing up often, you're winning most of the battle. But start showing up often and then showing up undistracted. Right? Start putting some of these other tools into places. It's easier, it is difficult, but I think it's easier than we make it at times. It starts with showing up. Show up before they ask you to. Show up for what matters to them. Show up when it's inconvenient. Show up undistracted, and show up often. These are different ways you can lay down your life for someone. Here's the final question I'm going to ask you today. What would need to change in your life so you could show up for the people in your life that mean the most? What would need to change in your life so you could show up for the people in your life? What's just one thing? Let's simplify it, right? What's just one thing that you could change? And I'm going to tell you this. We went through a season when we moved back to New York. I got into a season where, this was a lot. There's a lot of work to do here. And we were just grinding. We were just on the grind. And one of the things I stopped doing was anything within the morning. I used to drive Eden to school and do all that. And then when we got here, I would do certain days. I'd drive him to school, and I'd be part of the morning routine. And then we started getting on the bus routes, and then I stopped becoming a part of the morning, so I didn't feel super needed. So then I just started, I've got so much to do at work. I need all the rest I can get. And then we'd go through the rhythm of the day. I'm not going to give you all the rhythms of my day, but it just felt like all the way, guns blazing since the moment I'd get up till the moment I went to bed. And then I'd try to appease it with some TV for about an hour, self-medicate with some TV for about an hour or two with a charcuterie board and a little glass of wine with my wife, which was, really nice. But something was happening in our mornings. It was like chaos in the morning. Zion was not doing well. Eden was just well-behaved, was shutting down. And I felt like earlier this spring, I felt God was like, you got to wake up earlier. And listen, if anybody knows me, I'm like, that's of the devil. I know that part's of the devil. If there's one thing I know in my life, I know until it hits like 7:30 or 8, everything before that is of the devil. Only demon things happen in those times. And I felt like it was like, no, you got to wake up. And so I started waking up at 5 a.m. And I started exercising first, and then I started reading after that, and then I'd shower and eat breakfast. And then the most powerful thing happened for me. I would go and wake my kids up. And I wasn't waking up to my kids, because when I was waking up to my kids, let me just be really honest with you, I was waking up angry, and I was waking up frustrated, and I was waking up with zero patience for my son. He'd have the smallest of things going on. I couldn't figure out socks or something, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. Then I couldn't figure out socks, but he's now, next time I know, he's crying about it. Why are you crying about your socks? Just get your socks and we got to get out the door. And everything was just to the minute. And I stopped waking up to my kids, and I started waking up my kids. And I started waking up my kids refreshed. And I started waking up my kids energized. And I started waking up my kids after I'd already spent time with God, after I'd already given myself some food, after I had already given myself a shower and gotten changed. And I cannot tell you the change that it made. My son was not even the problem. He just needed somebody to help balance him. My wife came into harmony and peace. Eden started to even actually, because she's such like a type A. But she started to actually loosen up and have more fun again and start to share more of what was really going on in life. And we realized she was just trying to be the strong older sister in so many of those situations already at just the age of 9 and 10. And I'm telling you all this. Why am I telling you all this? Because it was just one thing that I changed. I just started waking up at 5 a.m. And I just started putting God, and I started feeding myself, and then everything changed from there. And I can't tell you the relationship with my son, the relationship with Eden, the relationship with even Sierra, and the relationship in our whole house, the difference it's made. And all it is, I can sum it up in these 2 words. I just decided to show up. I just decided to show up. I got to show up, but I had to show up a little different than I was in the last season. And listen, this season won't maybe work for the next season. I don't know. All I know is I had to make a change for this season. And I want to ask you that same question. What would need to change in your life so you could show up for the people in your life that mean the most? What would need to change in your life to show up for the people who mean the most? And whatever it is, whatever it might cost you, even if it costs you those 5 to 7 a.m. devil hours, I want to encourage you to do it. And I'll tell you this, you won't regret it. If those relationships truly matter the most to you, you won't regret it. I've watched my son and I's relationship flourish to a whole nother level than I never had before. And I've watched him strengthen like he just wasn't before. I've watched him learn to do so many things in this season and grow in so many ways in this season. And I'm telling you this, your relationships, your life, first your life, the desires you have in your heart for the relationships you have will change when you start to be willing to sacrifice enough to show up for them consistently. And the relationships around you, some of the people that you're waiting to change, right? What's that whole thing? Stop waiting for the world to change. Look at the person in the mirror and change yourself first. What is it? And I want to encourage you this. Jesus gives us the greatest example of all time. He modeled it with his lived life, and he modeled it with him dying for us. But he was always willing to sacrifice for the relationships and the people that mattered most to him in his life, for the people he encountered and came across. And so it's the same question. What are you willing to change? What needs to change in your life to show up for the people that mean the most to you? I want to encourage you to do it. And I want to encourage you this. You won't regret it. You will not regret it. You will not regret it. You will not regret it. Make the change, make the move, and start showing up. God, I thank you for these people. I thank you for this church. I thank you for what we continue to do and for what you continue to lead us in. And I pray that we would just continue to show up for one another in powerful ways, to learn what it looks like to show up in the way that you've taught us to. God, from the surface relationships to the deepest of relationships, that we would learn what it means to be present and to follow your presence and to walk in your presence and to have your presence amongst us in powerful ways, that we would always be present with people, and that would be the greatest gift that we give them. And I pray for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Everybody say amen. We love you so much. Hey, listen, if you have anything you want to go for prayer for, we have a prayer room out there, and we'd love to sit with you, hear your story, and pray with you, whether you're going through your highs and your lows. We love you, New Life. We'll see you next week for more cowbell.